what about homeowners? Florida's homeowner insurance rates are more than 3 times the national average. Why? Well, for one, Florida looks like this, making it extremely vulnerable to hurricanes and flooding.
The property insurance market in Florida is in chaos, and it has been for a few years now. What you have is many insurers just leaving the state altogether, and those that are staying are raising premiums at record paces.
Crushing insurance increases before hurricane season even enters its peak.
So how has DeSantis responded to all of this?
Ron DeSantis has signed several pieces of insurance legislation since he was in governor, all sort of ostensibly built around this idea that we're trying to stabilize the market. But what these pieces of legislation have essentially done is given the insurance industry things that it has been lobbying for years in Florida, more than a decade in some cases.
The big bill DeSantis signed was in December 2022. It had 3 major provisions.
One, it took away the rights of customers to sue their insurance companies if they don't pay claims on time or if they delay or deny claims unfairly. 2, it made it easier for insurance companies to raise rates even higher than they already are by taking away the risk that they might lose customers to a state-run insurance option. That's a place to find insurance without having to worry about, a profit motivation. And 3, they've extended an enormous amount of public subsidies to the industry in the form of below-market reinsurance. That's insurance companies buy for themselves. Under Ron DeSantis, the state of Florida has extended the amount of publicly subsidized reinsurance by $3 billion.
You think that with subsidies this big, there would be a few strings attached?
Critics would tell you that if you're going to be providing this essentially taxpayer-backed insurance to insurance companies, then there should be some immediate corresponding reduction that consumers see the benefit of the risk that they themselves are taking on.
We have yet to see any signs of relief for consumers. DeSantis, meanwhile, has been rewarded with $3.9 million in donations from the industry. It's a similar story for energy costs in the Sunshine State. Some of the first lobbyists to join Ron on the golf course came from utility companies that have since donated millions of dollars to his campaign. And it's not hard to guess what they were lobbying for.
Rates have gone up significantly in Florida, and that's partly the result of the 3 main power companies here, Florida Power and Light, Duke Energy, and TECO, all won the right to dramatically raise their rates just a couple of years ago. FPL is the state's biggest utility. I think it's got more than 6 million customers in the state now. It also got the biggest rate increase by far, roughly $5 billion over 4 years. It's an enormous rate increase, far bigger than anyone has ever seen in Florida before.
Energy bills got so high that residents in the Panhandle started organizing petitions and protests against the company. But one man in particular made all of this possible.
Ultimately, the elected official most responsible for this is the governor. The electric companies in Florida are supposed to be regulated by this body known as the Public Service Commission, but each of those appointees are appointed by the governor. And one of the things we've learned over the years is very few political appointees go against the governor's wishes on any sort of major decision.
My view is, we want to have affordable energy in the state of Florida, and we're committed to doing that, and that's where we're going to be on that.
Okay, so we've covered what DeSantis has done to the cost of housing, insurance, and energy, all issues that average Floridians are painfully familiar with. But there is one huge story that has completely flown under the radar. It's about, wait for it, tax policy.
Just before his re-election, I did a study looking at every tax cut and tax increase that Ron DeSantis signed during his first 4 years as governor. And what we found is that he had cut taxes for businesses by more than $5 billion, but he had raised taxes on consumers by more than $1 billion. So, his record would tell you, look, we've cut taxes by $4 billion, but that's because there was a $5 million tax cut for businesses and a $1 billion tax increase for consumers.
And the businesses we're talking about here aren't mom and pop shops.
We're talking about companies like Disney, like Comcast. The very largest corporations have saved an enormous amount of money in taxes under Ron DeSantis.
It's important to remember all of this when you see DeSantis going after quote-unquote woke corporations like Disney. For all of his culture war rhetoric, there's another side of DeSantis that he doesn't want us to see.
being very aggressive and very loud on culture war fronts, is very effective at distracting folks from realizing that a lot of the economic policies that are being passed are not necessarily in their best interest. People are too busy thinking about things like transgender athletes in competitive sports to notice that, hey, your taxes are going up while Disney's go down.
Now that DeSantis is running for president to make America Florida, we should ask what that would actually mean.
I think you will see an administration that is very focused on the policy needs of the wealthiest taxpayers and investors in the economy, and then trying to make the case that we will all ultimately benefit in some trickle-down way from that.
The rich give gifts to the governor, he hands them billions in return, and working people are the ones left picking up the bill.